Here we are in episode 41 of the Simple Success Podcast. This is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Coaching happiness. When you change you change everything. And today is a result of what you do every week. What's our listener anchor for the week? Their lighthouse, right? Their one sentence takeaway. Oh, you mean that bit that goes at the top of the show notes? Yes, that bit. That sentence. That, thing. Oh, you mean understanding the idea that you don't have to buy something and own it in order to invest? You don't? No, you can lend to someone and be investing too. A bond is a loan. Most often, these are to a company or a city or a national government. Investors get a fixed rate of return, partly determined by the credit rating of the lender. True, bonds are absolutely wonderful things. In the right market, I mean. Which is not now. Right, but I'll show you where the strategy fits in for you. Then we use it at the right time. You'll like that. I liked Barry Bonds. Right, well, what is a bond? Good place to start, DT. A bond is a promise. A bond issuer is making a promise. Like a stock, right? No, not at all the same thing. And that's even a better place to start. So it's not a promise? Slow down, DT. Let's put it into a really easy picture. Okay, so once again, what is a bond? A bond is a loan. A company or a government, usually a city or state, agrees to build something. Like a school or a sports stadium, roads, sewers, airports, that kind of stuff. Expensive stuff. Right. Too expensive to do unless you get a loan, just like buying a house or a car. Only bigger. Yeah, just a bit. So these companies or governments sponsor a bond issue, which usually goes on the next ballot for voters to be for or against. It's usually considered a safer investment. What happens if they're against? Then the bond never happens. The project doesn't happen. And when someone later on says, wow, the schools are not great here, that can sometimes be connected to no bond, which might have been paid for by new property taxes. Oh, I remember those from episode 36. So bonds can pay for schools? Yep, and that's another thing from episode 36. It's almost like we planned that. But of course, the randomizer prevents that, of course. But to keep things simple, what is a stock? Well, instead of a loan, like a bond, a stock is ownership. That's a mouthful. It is a mouthful, but it can be simple with 2 words and 1 rhyme. Loan or own. Sounds like a presentation title. It is actually, from a place I worked as a stockbroker, but it's also a great way and an easy way to remember, making a hard thing into an easy thing. When you loan, you buy a part of a company's debt, and you do so in part when there are good bond prices, meaning good bond investments. Your purchase, whether it's government or corporate debt, is really a loan, and they owe you your purchase money back plus the interest promised by the bond. But that's not true with the stock market? No, it's not. When you buy stocks, you are buying a part of the ownership of the entire company, which is why I need a financial advisor. There's nothing quite like owning 0.0000001% of Microsoft. It was better in the earlier days, Oh, I've heard about the days of real cash flows. Okay, so can you choose your type of bond? Oh yeah, there are an almost endless variety of bond types, and we'll do more details on some of those types after the break. Hello everyone, this is John with the Simple Success Podcast, financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Because we know you want to show us some serious love in return for the tremendous benefits you get from us. Please head over to the support link in our written show notes. That's the words on your podcast player. There, you can choose from a $9.99 per month doing level of support, a $4.99 knowing level, or a basic intro level of just 99 cents per month. Whichever you choose, thank you so much for helping us do this for you. To leave us a voice message which just might see the light of day in a future podcast, go to those same written show notes. You'll go to a site where you can leave a video, audio, or text-only message. depending on how you feel at the moment. You can also send us an audio file attached to an email if you use more than just your phone for stuff. I won't repeat those links because weird. And anyway, show notes. It's all in there and it's all easy. So, before the break, you were saying there are different types of bonds. Oh yeah, there are an almost endless variety of bond types, each getting different amounts of money from investors. There are 4 types just in the U.S. corporate bonds, government bonds, agency bonds, and municipal or muni bonds. What about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Those 2 plus Ginnie Maes. Bond investors have a wide set of choices, and sometimes even so-called preferred stocks can have payouts that are like bond yields and are more like bonds. Each has a different credit rate risk and is for a different purpose and a different tax plan. I know. Consult your tax advisor. Yes, please. Disclaimer off. But no matter how you slice it, bonds can have a very solid place in your life. Is there any conventional wisdom to bring into play here? Well, despite the obvious problems, what you think are obvious problems, okay, as you like it, despite the obvious problems with convention when what we're thinking is beyond that in the first place. So despite that, when you're younger, lots of people will tell you that you should lean your risk level considerably toward common stock. Why? The thinking is that younger people have more time to recover from bad moves, like the so-called junk bonds. Well, that's a kind of a dumb way to go about investing, isn't it? It sure is, especially when you have a goal to do well in the first place. When you have a goal like that, you stop focusing on things like annual returns and capital gains. But at least for actual market participants, whether or not they are bond buyers, it gets better. Or worse. Well, yes, or worse. Many of these same people will say that when you get older, you probably have less time to ride out any storms, so you want more bonds. Do they have a formula? Yes, there's different ones. A really common one is to take your age and subtract it from 100. Reminds me of the rule of 72. Almost. I guess we could call it the rule of 100, but let's not confuse the issue. At least not any more than it already is. So you subtract your age from 100. How old are you? Well, I'm not a lady, so you can ask. Oh yeah, but you're the devil, so you're ageless. I'm Doubting Thomas. I am not the devil, whatever that is. Age, DT? We'll say I'm 60. Okay, so in this fevered solution, 100 minus 60 is... Hey Alexa, what's 100 minus 60?
100 minus 60 is 40.
Right, 40. So your mix of stocks and bonds should be, in this view, 40% stocks and 60% bonds. And it changes every year. That's the idea, to get a little bit safer all the time. And the different types, for different purposes, different asset classes, different tax reasons, different accounts. But we're talking about real bonds, not savings bonds. That's a lot of details. Yes, but easy ones. Once you get used to it, I'm already used to it. I'll provide the customer service you need. Examples. Municipal bonds, usually called munis, usually don't have any federal or state tax. Except in AMT cases. Yes, but that's not so simple, so we're not going there yet. Corporate bonds have tax, so you put them in different accounts if you want to have some. Things like that. Does any of this have to do with psychology? Oh, no, not at all. Psychology is only in everything, after all. Oh, so that was you trying to misdirect me. Not that either, smart guy. We're on the same side here. Why is now not the right time? Let's look at some examples. Can't we take a break first? Sure, DT. What was I thinking anyway? We know a lot about you already because we know ourselves. For example, we know that you know how to listen to our podcast. We also know that you probably know how to subscribe. The reason every podcast asks you this is because when you subscribe, you automatically download all future episodes of that podcast. This means better rankings for the podcast, more attention from advertisers, and more money. And this means more and better stuff for you. So your motivation is simple and easy. Subscribe today, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Oh, and don't just try to subscribe. There is no try. There is only do. We're changing the way we look at things. And remember, that's good. Eso es bueno. Semo. Also remember, this is financial life coaching from a happiness perspective. Coaching happiness. Our call to action is right in the show notes. Find it and you win too. So, bonds should be part of what we're doing, right? There is no question about that, just at the right time. And we keep meaning to talk more about that. Thanks for pointing that out, Captain Obvious. So here we go. Back in, let's be original and call it the day. Wow, you are a wild one. By which I mean around 2005. Before the Great Recession. Before we cared about having a morning workout. As we now call it. Set the stage, please. The .com thing had become .bomb instead, for those who were too smart to sell. Yeah, and mortgage lenders were giving away money to, I think it was Goldfish or something. But people didn't generally know what a good investment return was. Real people were still wary after the year 2000 when they'd realized that $5 stocks weren't really worth $500. So they bought bonds. Some did, and with the great reason that's not around at the moment, which was that they were getting paid. Big. How big? 5% was common, and this was for 30-year tax-free bonds. I know a person, she was a brokerage customer of mine back in that day, and she's still making that 5% or more, completely free of federal income tax. So that's big, because the same bonds don't pay anywhere near that amount if you bought them right now. Again, so when makes a difference when. Bonds are good. Bonds can be great, just not all the time. When they're good, which they're not now. Right, but when they're good, back up the truck for bonds. And when I say bonds, I mean individual, specific bonds. Not a bond mutual fund? Those are fine in cases where you want other people to do the picking. What's with the individual bonds and bond markets? These are better than a bond fund because they remove the cloud, if you will. The cloud? The problem, where it's not real. It's an investment. It's part of your, the P word. Your portfolio. With individual bonds paying you a check, which is often quarterly, then you can link that $500 payment, or whatever the amount is, to something very specific. Like a hospital in Philadelphia. Yes, or maybe a school in Texas. But you can picture the thing. That's a lot better. Sure is, unless you like fuzziness, that is. And aren't there things called zero coupon bonds? Yeah, which is easier to explain than it might sound. Try it if you would, please. Sure thing, but you'll have to use your, the imagination thing. Yep, that. Way back when you were a kid. After you were done being a kid. Ouch. Bonds had little perforated things on the bottom. Perforated? Yep, they had little holes which marked where to tear the things off and to make it easier to do just that. And what was the point? Why would you do that? Each of those little perforated things was called a coupon and represented the bond's interest rate or coupon rate, the regular interest payments. You had to turn in the coupon and get the coupon payment as proof you owned the bond. In order to get paid? Yes, in order to get paid. And when the bond was done and the risk of default was gone, the coupons would be gone. Same time. Getting the principal payments was only part of the game. And so, along came these things called zero coupon bonds, which simply paid you without the need of coupons. But they wouldn't pay you in cash until the very end. Would you get credit for having played? Of course, but only credit, no cash. Credito no efectivo. What? Spanish. Oh, right, I forgot. That's okay. I'm here to remember for you. Remember, all you need to do is practice, after which you'll get good. Gracias por escuchar. A la próxima. In this Simple Success podcast, as well as in our webinars and masterclasses, we very much want to hear your story. Well, to be real, in future episodes of the podcast, webinars, and masterclasses. And this means you. Your participation is critical to our mutual simple success. It's important to know how you think, what you've thought, what you've tried, and what you've been unsure of trying, as we told you at the beginning. And as you also find in the show notes, we have ways you can contact us. It involves a special link where you can leave us a voice message, which just might see the light of day in a future podcast. We may have an email address for you as well in the future, and we'll let you know if that happens. Together, we're going to make it great. We're going to do what even we didn't think possible. This podcast and our other podcast are productions of Little Red Hen Industries. The supporting cast who helps me bake the bread includes Techno King John C. Brandy, fact checker Abraham Lincoln, French consultant Virginia Mitchell, media expert Favor Abasi Ike, psychologist Sigmund Freud, rabbit hole advisor Dr. Marg Parrott, sound designer Guglielmo Marconi, Spanish consultant Cameron J.K. Brandy, videographer Alfred Hitchcock, audio props Les Paul, and inspiration goes to Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, and Bob Proctor. We also have a website, and you can subscribe to both podcasts. You could even send us a video, audio, or text message, but of course, you'll have to head to the show notes, either on your phone or on the web, to actually get links and stuff. I mean, I could read the URLs where you could subscribe, support, or leave one of those video or audio messages, but you really don't want me to do that. And those explicit and clickable links are in the show notes. Finally, you can find us on Podmatch, where we consider guests, as well as consider guesting on other people's pods. And really, finally, the music for our pods comes from Cute by Ben Sound and from Piano Background by Nick Simon Adams, both on freesound.org.